So, welcome everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call with Microsoft speakers happening every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. This is this time of the week, because this is 8 a.m. in Tuesday. Anyway, today is March 24th. My name is Sébastien Levert. I'm a principal product manager for Microsoft. We are doing this right now today, partly from MVP Summit, which is pretty cool. So a lot of us are actually in Redmond, but some of the MVPs are joining also remotely. That doesn't change anything on the community call because, again, that structure always stays the same. So we're going to recap the latest updates and news on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So what's happening there? Our latest news across Microsoft Cloud. We're going to do a group photo in the Microsoft Teams Together mode. Let's see how this room technology can actually deal with that setup for the people who are in the room. But then we have the real stars of today. So Seb is going to talk about extending your Copilot Chat declarative agent with actions, so API plugins and MCP. Rabia is then going to talk about declarative agents with MCP servers and rich UI, which is really, really cool stuff, something what we rolled out pretty recently in the docs. I think updated those docs last week. So awesome to see that one as well. And then Giorgio and Eric are going to talk about Copilot Studio plugin for Cloud Code and GitHub Copilot. A lot of agent stuff covered today. So super excited to see the demos. Now, we do have a lot of assets available for you to get started on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform topics. Our YouTube channel, where we publish videos and guidance every single day, which is really, really cool. So you do want to subscribe there today. We do have a LinkedIn group and group for LinkedIn page and group for updates and discussions. There's a lot of open source assets. But in those open source GitHub repos, it might be difficult to find a relevant sample for you. So that's why we have sample galleries. So AKMS community samples, the URL where you can go and tend to find the relevant sample for you from Microsoft or community. A lot of URLs to remember. Luckily, AKMS community home or community MS is the one or two URLs to remember pointing to the same page in GitHub. Now, why isn't it moving? There we go. We do have a lot of community calls. So this is the one with Microsoft presenters happening every single Tuesday at Pacific time. And on top of this, we do have a call happening every single week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Pacific time with community presenters. So Tuesday call is with the people who are building the features, working in Microsoft, cloud advocates, product managers, engineers. And then Thursday call is with community presenters. So people are using and showcasing how they're using the product or building something on top of our platform. On top of that, we do have Power Platform monthly community call happened last week, actually for March, and then Office added monthly community call as well, which is Microsoft presented, Power Platform community presented. A lot of URLs and options to engage. AKMS community calls is the URL where you can see all of the different calls which are available. And we also publish a lot of these calls at the meetup service. So if you want to know advance what is the agenda, so you can decide if you want to join or not, you can go AKMS community meetup, sign up your email, and you will get the agendas advanced to your inbox. So you can decide if you want to be in that call online or not, which is really, really cool. Good. For some of these calls, a lot of these calls, we do welcome community presenters. So if you're an MVP or aspiring MVP, or if you want to just practice your presentation skills, you can sign up for a demo. Doesn't have to be rocket science, doesn't have to be open source. And the key point is still the focus on sharing the learnings, what you have. So we do not welcome really product demos, but hey, if you have built a kind of a product and you want to explain how the technology is evolving and how you are using technology, that is actually fine as well. No advertisement though, because this is all about community and learning from other people within the community. AKMS community request demo is the URL to fill in for getting your schedule. Now, I already mentioned the samples. There's a lot of samples, 2,600 samples plus from Microsoft and community at AKMS community samples. Really, really easy way to find the relevant solutions for you as well. And then when you find the sample, or you might be wondering, hey, wait a minute, I have this cool sample and I would like that to get shared within the community. Well, how would you get started? That's why we have our Sharing is Caring initiative, and David Warner directly from LA is going to recap what is this all about.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. So friends, sharing is caring for those that are new. It is hands-on guidance and in a safe space. That means we do not record. It is live. It is hands-on, but you can ask any and all questions so that it is that safe space for us all to learn together. We just finished up the hackathon guidance sessions, which were sort of ad hoc live office hours, and got a lot of good feedback. So we're going to be setting up some consistent opportunities for that. If you want just quick answers to some of those contribution questions you've got, you can pop in, ask the question, pop out, and be on your way. You don't have to join them full sessions, but we have those being scheduled as well. So be on the lookout for that because it is an actual contribution. And when you make a contribution, why does that matter? Well, we've got our recognition program. These badges are here to provide recognition for the amazing work that you're doing. Credly, the organization that powers all of these, has labeled this community best in class because of the amazing work and adoption that you are all putting in. So we're back with 2026, things like the hackathon. We've got our prompt pro. We're working on a new one with Rabia for our more Copilot prompts. We got our springtime superstar, the SharePoint hackathon, all this good stuff, and a lot of thematic things that are going on. So lots of super cool things on the horizon. It is absolutely free to join this program. aka.ms/community/recognition is your gateway. And we will track the amazing work that you're doing and get you those badges. So show them off to your managers, show them off to your clients, show them that you're contributing in a way that makes a difference to improve the technology, and they will be wowed. We know we love you for it, so keep it up. And that's not all. I think there's even more badge opportunities coming up. Paolo, what do you say? Something you got to share?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to recognizing the community contribution, we also have a set of new badges that we are going to introduce starting from April for the Copilot Developer Camp. So you can focus on different areas like Declarative Agent, Custom Engine Agents, MCP integration, connection of agents. And if you will contribute to the community with an agent sample in the community sample, you will also be able to get a specific badge for that. So plenty of new badges coming out in April, May, and June to recognize your effort in learning and sharing your knowledge with the whole community. Stay tuned and go to aks/copilot.camp.
Excellent. Thank you, Paolo, for that one, and thank you, David, for the badges information. Now, quick recap on upcoming events. Atlanta actually happened last week, so that is already outdated slide. I should have actually updated that. Chicago happening in June, and Seattle as part of the TechCon 365. You want to check out techcon365.com for additional details on that. And I do know that there's an ongoing discussion of having even more in later on this year. We also have the Microsoft 365 Community Conference coming up on April 21st to 23rd. That's going to happen in Orlando. I'll be there, Paul will be there, David will be there, a lot of people will be there to talk to you the latest and greatest on AI, Copilot Studio, Copilot extensibility, SharePoint products, and so on. And more details on that one at m365conf.com. Followed up on that one on 5th to 7th of May, we will be at the European Collaboration Summit at Cologne, Germany. So that happens 5th of May will be the pre-workshop day. 6th and 7th May will be actually the actual conference days. Really cool setup, a new venue, more than 3,000 attendees. It's going to be there up to 5,000 even maybe. We'll see how many people are joining. Now, following up on that one, in June 29th to July 2nd, there's going to be a European Power Platform conference happening in Copenhagen. Great opportunity also catching up on latest on Power Platform. All of the Microsoft executives will be obviously there as well. And more details on that one at AKMS EPPC. On top of that, there is a lot of other events happening all around the world, a bit more smaller events than those bigger conferences, and you can find full list from communitydays.org. So that is the one location where you can go and find all of the different locations. Some of these are in person, some of them might be paid, some of them might be free. So want to check out the details at communitydays.org. Now, already mentioned actually in the chat as well. Thank you, James, on that one. I did notice that. So one of the things to also call out tomorrow morning at Wednesday, 25th of March at 9 a.m. Pacific time, we do announce the hackathon winners for SharePoint. We will actually broadcast this live from Microsoft Studios at Building 127. So that's going to be a cool setup. We will show you the top 3 nominees for all of the different 6 categories, and then we're going to announce the winner in every single category. A lot of submissions on SharePoint Hackathon. We had 125 submissions, which is 37% more than a year ago. So awesome work by everybody participating on this one. So more details on that one. That's going to be a live stream in YouTube at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning Pacific time. So you can actually have a live chat with everybody else in the community on wondering who's going to win on which category. So I'll be definitely there because I'm presenting. Well, hopefully you will be there as well. Good. Also, we're going to take it to get a picture pretty soon. So a few more slides, and we're going to do this because Teams is having a bit of a hiccups on this one. So if you want to be involved in this to get a picture, please enable your camera now, so it will actually pick up things. Thank you, Xiao, for showcasing how that is being done. Good to see you, Xiao. Now, quick recap on the news on what's happening on the Microsoft side. Not that many news until last night when I actually captured all of this stuff on the Microsoft side. A lot of updates coming all around the different products, but this week was a bit slower comparing to the previous week. But we can expect a lot of news coming up on this week as well. So please catch up the latest from the chat. And if you're watching the recording, and all of these news are listed in the video description as well. We also do want to acknowledge always every single week our Copilot prompt library. And this is not just Copilot prompts, it's also skills and agent definitions and descriptions. So there's a lot of awesome support and insights on how to work with agents at the AKMS PMP prompt library. Thank you, Rabia, for incredible work on actually continuing doing this on a week-by-week basis and building the library. And this week's prompt of the week is coming from Dalia Zuniga. And this is really around the impact analysis of meeting transcripts. So basically having a meeting transcript and then starting asking more specific details and actions from the transcript. Not just sitting on what you get from the transcript, which is good, but again, really looking into timelines and all of that. And that sample is available absolutely at the AKMS PMP prompt library. And I can see that link in the chat as well. Thank you, David, for putting that one there as well, if you're interested on that one. But congratulations, Delia Zuniga, for a prompt of the week. Awesome work. And then it is time to go to the picture time. So Seb is leading us with an example. Right, Seb? And then we'll be joining from the room. And David's going to share the screen and helping us to make this happen. So let's see how that actually works.
Absolutely. Since y'all are up in Seattle, or most of you are up in Seattle, at least a few of you are up in Seattle, we will be outdoors and the interwebs is looking good. Y'all look fantastic. Love it. So we'll give everyone just another second or two as Teams gets the jets primed for us. There is there is a duality of Vesses in our together mode today. Look, one next to Seb and one up above Seb. That is awesome. That is awesome. We'll see what it looks like when he waves. All right, another couple of seconds. We are doing good on time. We'll just give everybody, I see Casper with the furry friend. Excellent. One more opportunity, everybody. We'll do the countdown. And 3 and 2 and 1. Woo, great to see you all. Love the enthusiasm. Thank you all for being here. It's awesome that you are all here to join us. Thank you so much. All right, we'll get that shared out on the interwebs. So Seb, if you want to take it away, we can just kick you off. Extending your Copilot Chat declarative agent with actions, API plugins, and MCP.
Today we're going to continue our journey towards building a declarative agent. And today we're going to really be diving quite deep into declarative agents and what it means to build them to make a little bit more than just retrieving data. And I really think that's kind of one of the key area that we want to focus on when we're thinking about pro code tooling for declarative agents. We're going to talk about API plugins. So we're going to add actions using API plugins. And we're going to also talk about something we launched very recently, which is MCP plugins. After that, which is awesome, I'm going to hand that over to Rabia for her demo, where she's going to go way deeper into the MCP world and kind of showcase what we can do even on top of just retrieving data and acting on data. I think we can do really, really cool things. I'm going to leave that to Rabia. So far, we've been answering questions. We've been citing documents. It was quite read-only, right? But today, we're going to call live APIs for real-time data. We're really going to go and call an API that lives out there, fully authenticated, and we're going to get that straight back to your environment. We're going to be able to create, update, and delete records. So we're going to be able to realistically create all the scenarios we need, the read and the writes to connect to your systems. Now, what it means, we're going to talk about two different ways of adding actions to a declarative agent. The first way is through OpenAPI. If you have an API, a service that it has an OpenAPI description, or that you can describe using an OpenAPI description, just bring it. And we will be able to make use of that OpenAPI to understand and match the intent of the user based on what they're doing. So if you say, list me all the repairs, we will be able to identify that there is a read operation, a get operation somewhere in that API, and that we can perform it. If you say delete a record, we're going to be able to do the same thing. We're going to be able to identify that there's a delete operation on a record and has some required parameters that needs to be passed in, and we're going to automatically match the context with the parameters. And if we don't have enough information, we're going to ask you about them, and then we're going to be able to pursue that that operation. That would be really, really powerful. It's awesome when you have an existing API. So I know there's a lot of people that have been looking into MCPs as the way to connect AI, but if you already have an API plugins are perfect for you. They allow you to use your existing investments and to reuse them directly inside Copilot. And you can do some rich rendering using adaptive cards. So you can actually either point to a file or just embed it into the description that I'm going to show in a minute. The second way is through MCP plugin. So MCP plugin is working in a similar way to OpenAPI descriptions, just that instead of the OpenAPI description, you're bringing your tools descriptions. So each MCP server has a list of tools. Bring that list of tools inside your declarative agent, and now we're going to be able to reason over that list of tools and understand when to call which. I would suggest that if you have an MCP server, to use that MCP server. It might be a little bit easier to use. It's also fairly interesting when you want to do rich rendering. Well, we won't talk about rich rendering today, or I won't talk about rich rendering today. I'm going to leave that to Rabia later on. And then adaptive cards is also fully supported with MCP servers that don't necessarily have support for rich rendering in your MCP server. And both of them are just manifests. So in this case, I'm going to connect to existing APIs that are currently running out in the wild and that doesn't need any local setting on my machine. So I can just describe the API, describe the operation, and then just use it directly into my declarative agent. So let's talk a bit about API plugins. You're going to need three things: your OpenAPI spec. You're going to need to be able to craft your own plugin manifest or use a tooling that we offer for that. And you're going to have to craft your own adaptive cards. Super important, the agent will understand what it can do by using function descriptions, but also parameter descriptions on how to match the parameters based on the intent of the user. So in the end, you're going to get a couple of different files. You're going to get, for example, a repairs plugin.json file. It's going to identify what this plugin can do, what are the different functions it has access to. It's going to point to the OpenAPI to really have the richness of all the information you need. And afterwards, you're going to have a couple of adaptive cards as JSON files to render in a rich way over there. So instead of going through the slides, let me go and show you what this looks like in real life. Let me go here. Let me close these two things. Let me open up my app package, where we're going to go back to our declarative agent file that we had for a long time. We've been building this declarative agent file pretty much for the last couple of weeks, where we still have all of our capabilities, where we had graphic card, code interpreter, web search, and so on. But we're going to introduce a new node to that declarative agent. And that new node is this one here, the actions node. And the actions node here has two different ones, and we're going to start with the repairs. The repairs is our API plugin, where it basically references that repairs plugin.json. So let's go and see what that file actually has to offer. It's a pretty simple file. Nothing too complex here. It only has a name and a description. So those are all the functions that are available inside your OpenAPI file. So in this case, I understand that I can do repairs get, repairs item delete, item get, item patch, and I can create a new repair. All of that is identified through this here. So it's the runtime that we have right here that is of type OpenAPI, where I do have a URL to my OpenAPI file. And that's really where a majority of the real rich information lays. And also, I want to be able to run this plugin for all of these different functions. So maybe your OpenAPI has way more functions and you want to limit it. Well, you can do it through here. So it would not allow anything else than these 5 functions here. So now let's go and check this API file. So first has some OpenAPI regular information like the title, a description, a server, which is where this API lives right now, which is on the repairs hub.azurewebsites.net. And then you have all the operations, all the paths that are here. For example, as part of this path, I have a delete operation that has an operation ID. Look here. This is what matches the name of my function in my repairs plugin right here. So here you remember we have repairs item delete. Well, we have it here again, repairs item delete. And this is something that if you're using some framework, you can automatically generate your own OpenAPI file. Coding agents are actually really, really good at identifying the docs, mapping it to an OpenAPI file, and generating it if you don't have one already. So take advantage of that. And then here we have all our different operations, our delete, our get, our patch. We also have then a get on all the repairs, and we're going to get then a post on all the repairs to create into the collection. That's it. The rest is just very simple OpenAPI description that is there. That was generated by the server, but as I said, you can generate your own if you don't have already one that matches the signature of all these APIs. And then it's just in the declarative agent, it's just hooked up as an action. And automatically, you will also have Copilot that will know about these actions and will be able to invoke them. So if I go here and I go to my, let me go to the right one. Let me go here, HR onboard. I did some changes or onboarding buddy. I might have a couple of those, right? HR onboarding buddy. I'm gonna. Yeah, it's good. It's the one that I haven't installed just yet. And we have it here. Now I'm going to be able to use the get all repairs right here, and I'm going to call it. Now, might have some issues on my tenant today. We'll see how that works, how that plays out. I'm using a very early tenant, so it might actually not work, but believe me here, that would work. It's going to work for my MCP stuff. So it's going to be the exact same experience for both. What is really important, and I just saw in the chat, yeah, exactly. So it didn't work exactly right now. I'll come back to do a demo on that working later on, but you see that as part of my debugging card. We're going to cover the debugging card later in the session, but that I do have my repairs API right here, and it should automatically select the right function from here automatically. Now, I had a question around auth. How do I make sure that these are authenticated? This one was not authenticated, and you could see it from my repairs plugin. I say authentication type none. Well, in this case, it's okay. I'm just doing some dev work. If you want it to be authenticated, we do support either API key, OAuth, or SSO. And all of those are automatically supported. You need to register your authentication into our developer portal, and then automatically everything works end to end. The user will be prompted. The user will be logging into your underlying system, and then we will take care of the token, making sure that it's all refreshed when we need it to do all the calls from the orchestrator side. So that is the first demo that I wanted to share with all of you. Now, let's go back to slides for a second, and let's talk about how we do that also with MCP plugins. Well, you can think about it as being the exact same thing. The same plugin file we saw earlier, it's basically the exact same file we're going to use for plugins with some little differences, but kind of almost the same thing. The server self-describes itself. We're going to have very soon live tool discovery at runtime. Right now, you need to bring it to your manifest, but the goal is to get to automatic discovery or dynamic discovery of these tools to make sure that your agent can evolve as your MCP server evolves. And you can also have either adaptive cards to be inlined, or you can use some UI widgets in the past and in the future. And Rabia will cover that in the next session. So this is basically how it looks. You see how it's very familiar. The same plugin manifest, the same things with the name and the description. Here, the name would be your MCP tool name. Here will be the description. And now you're going to have the type, which will be remote MCP server, the URL to your MCP server, and then the tools that are embedded directly in there. And that's it. You can also externalize the tool. You can use a file to represent the tool. So it might be a little bit easier to keep them in sync. And then as part of the tools description, that's the information we need. We need the name, the title, the description, the input schema, what comes in, what are the parameters, what comes out, the output schema, and all of that should be working as one big thing together. So let me just go here, do a quick refresh to this. I can skip that and then just go into the demo here. Let me go to this tenant right now. Let me go back here. Let me show you quickly this one right there. I can do this. And now let me do the following. So now I will be looking, I was using the exact same type of query we've been using in the past. And in this case, like my tenant doesn't know about the PTO balance for which one is best, how to get this, how to understand the PTO balance. It's all secured. It's somewhere in a backend system, right? So I'm just gonna launch this here, and we're gonna see things lining up pretty quickly. I'm gonna also try the same on this guy here. Just want to check if that will actually work at the same time. Reason why I'm doing this dance between the two browsers is, okay, there we go. I wanted to get that. Perfect. And now it's going to tell me, hey, you know what? I will be connecting to an external system. The same experience would have worked earlier with the API plugins. And I'm going to just say here, just click confirm. So you're good with me sending that information to the downstream service. I'm going to hit confirm. And now it's going to call the MCP server that is running right now. It's going to get the data. It's going to securely do all of that. And now I'm going to focus on the bottom part of the screen here. And here you're going to see that the current PTO balance for Alex is 20 days with use of 8 days, has 2 pending days. And you can see that all of that was coming from that. You see how that pill, that citation pill, it tells you that this is coming from Contoso HR, which is automatically the one that is our MCP server. Now, at the top, you might have seen some rich content right here, but I'm going to get Rabia to talk to you about how to build those and how to make them even better than that. So in one thing, what is interesting also is you can actually mix them. If you have APIs and MCPs, they can live together. They can be hooked up to the same agent and work in different ways, which is really, really powerful, I think. When to use which? Well, if you already have an open API file, just use an API plugin. If you want to render like an experience within Copilot, definitely go with an MCP plugin. If you want to go the simplest setup, API plugin is probably what you're looking for because you probably already have those APIs in your organization. If you're building from scratch, I would recommend to go the MCP route. If you want to have cross-platform tool compatibility, now all the AI tools are all kind of going through the MCP standard. So I would definitely highlight to go to the MCP plugin route. So you're going to be able to reuse that server across other scenarios. Now we have persona, capabilities, knowledge, accents, all within just a JSON file, a set of JSON files. So we've been able to take that scenario early on to here today where we're having all of these really cool things. So I think it's great. Next session, we're going to talk about advanced configuration, where we're going to be fine-tuning our agent, handling some edge cases, and making sure that the agent is production ready. So we're going to talk about that next week. Until then, you can try the current code that is on that repo. And I'm going to send it back to David or Vesa. Redmond, are you still alive?
Yes, we are now in a new room in campus. So the previous room had locked, or I don't know what happened. But anyway, so thank you, David, for dealing with that situation. So that was a complete failure on the Zoom room devices. But Rabia, I think you are next in the line. And then we transition to Giorgio and Eric after that.
Yep, thank you so much. Thank you, Seb. That was amazing. Now you've made my life a lot more easier. Just bear with me. I'm just going to share my screen. I just have one screen. I'm actually working remotely. Okay. So
there's the screen. Yeah.
Here we go. Awesome.
All good.
All good. So I'm going to follow through a few of the concepts. Seb has already covered a lot of deep dive stuff into declarative agents and MCP servers in general. But I will just recap because I love to do analogy-based explanation for things. So for M365 is the UI for AI. And if it's an operating system, declarative agents is like apps installed on the OS. So I love explaining like this because it makes easier for new people who are joining the call. If you've already been following the series for declarative agent, you can just skip. But declarative agents are purpose-built, so you have a specific domain knowledge being fed into declarative agents. You have scopes, you have information, etc. And you don't have to worry about orchestration because that's already done by Microsoft. So you declare what the agent does, and then Copilot handles everything. And then when you talk about the technical aspect of what a declarative agent is, it's a bunch of JSON files. So you probably saw Seb show those files like plugin manifest, you have declarative agent file, you have the Teams package file that is a manifest and a couple of icons. You don't need a custom backend for declarative agents, but you can connect to your code, etc. You can scope it to knowledge, tasks, the directive, okay, what personality you want for agent, etc. But it's run inside Microsoft 365's orchestration engine. Now, quickly onto the features. Again, it's scoped. It's got zero orchestration code. You can plug actions. For example, you can have APIs connected using API plugins, MCP server, SharePoint, etc. You can have conversation starters added to it for adoption. You can ground it with knowledge, with SharePoint, OneDrive, etc. And you also have M365 tenant security already applied to your agent, which I think it's amazing. Cool. So once that's done, we'll talk about MCP servers because we're here to talk about MCP servers plus the rich UI. But in declarative agents terms, it is an action. So you can add MCP server as an action, and MCP is Model Context Protocol. It's a standard for exposing tools to AI models. So if you're working across different AI models, MCP might be the right choice for you. You can just wrap up your API as an MCP server and start using with your AI models. And inside this MCP server, you'll have tools. You can see here in the manifest file screenshot, you have functions. These are tools that you can invoke, and you can add one or many tools as you need for your agent to be super focused and laser focused on what it has to do. You will provide the URL to your MCP. You also have auth support. You have OAuth 2.0 and SSO currently with declarative agents, and MCP servers that run on remote, that is the HTTP streamable ones, are now in declarative agents. So moving on, the problem, right? So we saw earlier in the demo as well, when you talk to an agent that's connected to an MCP server, great, it brings back information, but it brings back in plain text and sometimes an adaptive card as well. But it makes more impact when you actually show. For example, in this screen, you have on the right side a map showing information. You can directly get more insights when you see things visually. These days, everybody's into visuals, everybody's into videos. So reading a bunch of text is taking a backseat slowly. But having that vision, having that UI aspect also taking action within these widgets also makes a lot of difference. It makes it easier for folks to find out. It's not like recreating your website directly into an agent, but it's also like, okay, I need to find this information, but if I can act right there, then I need buttons and sortings and filters, etc. So you can bring all that right into your widget, which is great because that makes life so much more easier. So that is why we have the concept of UI widgets, although adaptive cards do the same thing, but we have more control as developers when you have a React-based widget behind the scenes in your MCP server where you can make calls back and forth, format, you can update the code, everything. You have more control as a developer, if you know what I mean. So what are they? They are UI-based MCP servers. So when you're building MCP servers, think about the design patterns. Okay, think about what can be a UI, a widget that can help users get up to speed with whatever workflow they're in. You also, like I said, it's bi-directional. So you write a query into Copilot Chat, you get a call, a tool being called automatically by your agent, right? You saw the bunch of functions that it has. But imagine even these widgets can call tools. So they can call a tool and then do the functions, etc. So it's bi-directional. And some real world scenarios we have is like sales dashboard, approval workflows, editable forms, preview of tickets, etc. Now, earlier this month, we announced OpenAI app SDK based agents, declarative agents now available in Copilot. We're also going to be having MCP apps pretty soon available in Copilot, which is great news because these are all, the world is getting smaller and smaller because now you can build stuff that works with ChatGPT or works with Claude Code, all and Copilot right here. So as a developer, this is expanding the things that you could do, which is great. And you have these examples of some of these samples. You can see here visuals. You can see Field Ops Assist, which is a great sample. And I will talk to you about where you can find these samples so you can get the patterns of building something like this. And that's why I said, you know, we should have more of these demos when we will be planning that, having at least one sample being showcased a month. So let's hope we find those lots. More inspiration. And let's jump into the demo. I'm just going to stop sharing because I'll just keep my video off. Okay, the problems with having just one screen. This is something I'm learning now. Okay, so I already have this declarative agent ready. So I've used Agents Toolkit, M365 Agents Toolkit to build this, and I will show you in a few minutes how to do that. But as you can see here, in this declarative agent, if you go to the plugin, you have something called, so this is the remote server, and this is the MCP tool. So I have all the tools information in this file. And when you come, I mean, these are all functions. They are the schema, all this information for each of the functions. But if you scroll down, and this sample is also available, and I will talk to you about all these samples that you can go ahead and try out. If you come down, there's something called meta, and you'll see that we have few entries of the widgets. So they are HTML based, but you can create React and then generate the HTML out of it. And these widgets will be showcased as a response instead of plain text or adaptive card. So this is how it works behind the scenes. And in your package, you'd basically have just pointers. Now, you could get these information as well if you're using the Model Context Protocol Inspector. If you run your MCP server there, you would also find the same information coming back from the tool list. So yeah, these are the new entries. And for MCP apps in future, it will have a different kind of entry. This is specifically OpenAI that works in ChatGPT. The good thing about MCP apps, it works both in ChatGPT and in Claude Code. And that's something we will also explore together in the upcoming sessions. So let me go ahead and show you the demo. So if you are familiar with our contents, especially from Copilot Camp, you probably already know about Trey Research. But if not, here's a quick recap of what this is. It's a fictitious company. What we do here is we have to manage consultants, assign consultants to new projects. So it's a HR consulting company. And right now, what's happening here is, as a person from the consulting resource, I have a new project that's come up, and I need to assign consultants who have JavaScript skill. Now, as a person who would traditionally do things through their website, you would go to the website, search for project, and you would find the project information, and you'd figure out, or you have to read through and figure out, oh, you need JavaScript consultants. And then you go to the consultants page, search for consultants with skill with JavaScript, and then you figure out, oh, who's free. And then you have to go to a form. You have to fill out the form to assign these consultants to the project, etc., etc. So now, at least minimum of 15 clicks and 2 forms have to be updated as a person. So let's see how we are making it a lot more easier with MCP server in a declarative agent with an MCP server that has UI. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for the project details. And it will go ahead and call the tools that's necessary to get the information of the project. And I'll see that you have the UI popping up in the screen, which is, okay, it's like a dashboard. It gets all this information in, etc. And I know this is the project, but the good thing is I can also expand this and show it in a better way. So I have the full screen of whatever is shown to me. I have all this information. I can just go ahead and ask for, okay, now show me, there is nobody assigned to this project yet. So show me consultants with JavaScript skill. And then it will go ahead and pick all the consultants, because it's got a tool that it calls, and bring all the consultants that's available who have skills with JavaScript. And this is like a bulk editor. I could just go ahead and add things like, I need this person to have maybe a role of a senior lead or something like that. I can do it right here. So if it's something I need to update, I can do that. But for now, I want to know more about Mr. Puranik. So I'm just going to ask, okay, show me more details. Okay. Oh, sorry. Not that. So that's another query I'm going to do. So show me more details of, oh, thank you for that. See, I've rehearsed my demo, so you know that by now. Cool. So it will go ahead and show more details of my consultant here. I can look into the active projects. I can see the forecast. I can see the hours delivered, all this information. And this could be different views for you. So I'm now confident that this person is perfect for our project. And he could probably be the project lead, since he's not assigned to any project yet. And now I'm going to paste this to assign Avery and Sanjay to this project as developers, and I'm going to put the billing hours as well. So I'm doing all right here in like a few seconds. Obviously, this is a 15 minutes demo altogether, and probably I took like 3 minutes for the entire thing. And this otherwise would have been a person sitting and opening up multiple tabs and searching and adding and going ahead and putting forms, etc. While I am doing all this in natural language. Okay, Copilot has come back saying that, okay, these are the information, I'm going to do it, confirm, which is great news, because whenever you see like a confirmation button from Copilot, know that your app is working. This is one of the tricks. So I now have added, and I could go ahead and ask the dashboard for this particular project, which is what it suggested back to me. And you would see it refresh and bring back the dashboard if everything is working. Okay, great. So it has 2 consultants now, 2 assignments. It has put all the information of the billing. It has 2 consultant information, all this right here. So few minutes and all this was done because, you know, again, I have gone ahead and done all this, but I was also able to see this. I was able to work within Copilot and do actions, etc. So this is the benefit of having an MCP server that is also tuned into rich UI widgets. And let me just take you through what you need to do next. So what we have done also silently is drop a bunch of samples. So if you see the first link, mcpa.ms/mcp-ui-samples, these are samples available both in OpenAI SDK-based MCP servers as well as MCP apps-based. So you'll be able to test the OpenAI one right away, but you would have to wait for a bit more time. I think Tikam, our principal product manager for this feature, is already in this call, so he probably might be able to get this and more information on when MCP apps will be dropped, but it will be soon. So this is a great place for you to explore all these samples. We will try and get some of these sample demos also into these community calls. We're working on that, but Field Service Dispatch is a great app if you want to go ahead and try out the maps and stuff like that. We already saw trade research, and there are much more which we will be adding. You can also go into the docs, DA-UI-widgets-docs, and read all about what's happening and how you can do this, etc. But to be very honest with you, I will tell you a trick on what I do as a developer. So you can start with a declarative agent, and I know Seb is running an 8-week series, which is already continuing, which is a great video series that you have to follow in the community channel, so you can learn from scratch what declarative agents are. We also have Copilot Developer Camp, where there are self-paced labs for declarative agents. My colleagues Paolo and Aicha, we all authored these labs, so you can go ahead and try out. We have labs for basic declarative agent, we have API plugin, we have MCP server, we have OAuth for MCP server, all these labs, and I'll tell you about the new upcoming ones as well. But you start with a declarative agent. Think about the REST APIs that you have or you can build from scratch, you know, maybe a couple of routes, and then expose them as MCP tools. Then go for designing widget first, UI widgets. The ones that I've shown you today, they're based on Fluent UI React components. Build them up using the patterns. So you go to these samples, you get if you're using coding agents, it works great if you give a pattern using samples. So go to these samples, give your coding agent one of the MCP server samples, and just refer to how they've built these UI widgets, or you could do it yourself as well. And then give us feedback, test these samples, give us feedback, share the pain points and or even the success stories. So this is probably the route I would take as a developer starting now. We would also be launching soon a new lab for MCP apps in Copilot, which will be step-by-step process of how you can do a declarative agent with MCP and your rich UI widgets. So stay tuned, aka.ms/Copilot DevCamp. We're also running a lot of awards and badges and things like that, exciting stuff. And that's all for today from my side. Hope that was informative. I will give it back to Wesa.
Thank you, Rabia. On that one, thank you, Giorgio, already starting. We are a bit late on the schedule, and no worries there. If somebody needs to drop early, then you can get the recording afterwards. But Giorgio, feel free to start sharing.
Yes, that is Eric. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
Hey, good morning, afternoon, everyone. So today, Giorgio and I are presenting you the skills for Copilot Studio. So it's the third plugin you're being talked about today. So you pretty much know all about it. We focused to work into Copilot Studio. So our goal was very simple. It was enable a different UI in terms of makers. Today, we spend most of our time in Copilot Studio UI to build agent, which is interesting, but when you need a stronger control in terms of the sources and so on, Copilot Studio might be, Visual Studio Code might be a good approach there. And we wanted as well to be where the developer sits and might not just be into VS Code. So we created a plugin that's available for Claude, GitHub Copilot, whether you're using it in CLI or in VS Code, to support you throughout your development of Copilot Studio agent. So really targeted at the custom agent stack. We saw a few plugins just a minute ago around declarative agent. This one is really there for custom agent. So obviously it speed up your development of agent because you don't need to drag and drop component into the UI. Claude or GitHub Copilot will do that for you through the YAML coding. But our ambition was to go beyond that, was to bring the right knowledge to the developer, prevent hallucination, because avoiding heavy hallucination is still tough because the industry is moving so fast that the model are struggling to catch up with our latest technology. And as well, knowledge reuse. Our team, the CAT team, has been focused into shipping a lot of blogs to share best practices and architecture pattern around custom agent in Copilot Studio. Those are actually built into the skills. So as you build, the code that's being generated is actually following our guidelines, and some of the blogs were already written in. Obviously, I know some of you are a bit technical, so an architecture is always good to have. So as we were saying, we built the plugin to be compatible in all the UI that are available for GitHub Copilot. And this architecture relies on 4 different agents. The author agent focuses on building stuff, the manage agent, which actually gets you started because you need to first clone an existing custom agent before starting editing, and then you can get in sync using him. And then you have the test agent that can do point test. You just want to send the prompt to Copilot Studio and get the output, or you want to do batch testing and more. And you have the troubleshooting agent that's about validating the code, which is super important as we're using, models that are very good about building advanced plan, understanding your need. It's always good to have an agent that can put the LLM in check and have a very static approach into validating the code. So that's really the troubleshooting agent. It also has access to a lot of knowledge about how Copilot Studio works, and it can help you understand and building a plan to troubleshoot the issue. All that is built around a lot of skills, 30 at the time, but that's growing as we're moving forward. All sits into a local workspace that's either be in VS Code or the CLI, the repo you picked for the CLI. As I was saying, we have a fixed set of capabilities at the minute because of our architecture choice. Those will evolve as we move forward. Just a few things to know. If you're really focused on having Power Automate being launched into your custom agent, that's not something, for example, we're supporting, and we're working into connected agent experience. So that should be in the skill soon, but it's a bit more complex to control in the coding. I know we're short on time, so I'm gonna pass over to Giorgio that's gonna do a demo of the agent itself.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Well, I had planned for a live demo, but given the time, I'll stick to a demo that I used this morning when I recorded a video. And by the way, there are a lot of video already out there. There are a lot of MVPs. And if there is an MVP in here that already did a demo on this, thank you. Thank you a lot. Otherwise, there are a lot, and I am planning to post my demo too, like today or tomorrow. So there are a lot of live video demo. But for this call, given we have 5 minutes left, I wanted to show you like the general way of working of this plugin. So it's starting by asking to clone an agent, because every modification, it's code, right? And the code is stored locally, as Eric was saying. So the first thing you need to have is the agent cloned locally. We are making use of the VS Code extension for Copilot Studio, but you will not see it because it's embedded in the plugin. But there is a synergy between those two tools, the plugin and the extension. So Eventually, if you want, you can also take a look at the code modification in the extension itself to enhance your work stream. So once you clone the agent, you will get a folder, which I don't have because I had planned for a live demo, in the folder of choice. In this case, I am in C/TMP, and that folder will have a lot of YAML file representing all the components for your agent, from knowledge to sub-agents, like child agents, to topics or the settings in general. So after I cloned my agent, it dispatched the task through the Copilot Studio Manage agent. You can see here. And that's one of the sub-agent Eric was talking about. We have 4 at the moment, different sub-agents working together. One is the Manage one, which handles cloning, pushing, and pulling modification from and to the cloud. Once the agent is cloned, in this case into CTMP agent 10, we are ready to perform some modification. And in this case, I've asked a lot because I tried to challenge Claude. In this case, I'm using Claude, but the same would have been possible in GitHub Copilot CLI. In particular, I am asking a few modifications in the settings, like the name and the instruction right here in the top. Then I'm asking to create a topic. Basically, I'm not so specific. If you will have the time to read through this, go ahead. You will see that I'm not so specific. I'm not saying please build a topic, but I'm saying I need to handle reservation. But given the context I'm giving, the plugin will understand that the topic is the best choice for this. In this case, my topic is also calling an API endpoint, but I'm not giving the schema on purpose. So I'm asking Claude in this case to figure out the schema by making some dummy calls. Then another modification in the instruction. Then I'm asking to add a few knowledge sources. And finally, this is a bit long, I will not read through it, but this is basically the perfect spot for a child agent. And again, I'm not saying please build a child agent because I don't want Claude to just execute my orders. I could, and you're free to do so if you're very skilled in Copilot Studio. But if you're not, if you're like a pro developer or even a developer just working on Copilot Studio for the first time or like very few times per year, you can also be very open-minded or open-ended, and asking general questions. In this case, I'm switching to a travel expert advisor, so it's no more an agent to handle reservations and orders for my pizzeria, but a travel advisor, which gives the idea of a different context, and that means a child agent. And as you can see, the first thing Claude is doing is trying the API. The API responding with an error, in this case, missing required field date, because Claude tried with a parameter called reservation date, which was not correct. And so since Claude is able to read the output, it's now getting that the schema is this one. So date instead of reservation date. And indeed, the API succeed. Once it understood the API schema, it's ready to dispatch the first 4 tasks in parallel to the sub-agents. In particular, given those are 4 modifications, they are dispatched to different author agents. The author agents will have their flow of work, and at the end you will have the agent settings done, reservation done, knowledge bases added, and child agents added. And since at the end my prompt ends with please push the changes into Copilot Studio into the cloud, Claude Code is also calling the manage agent to do a final push and make all the modification live in the cloud, and returning with a small table about all the modifications that were made. Again, this was very quick, and sorry for showing you like an already did one, but for the sake of time, this is what we get. There are a lot of video demo, or also written ones. In particular, I do suggest checking out our blog, which is here. This is the blog for Cat Advisor in microsoft.github.io/MCS blog. And in particular, there is this post, which is Skills for Copilot Studio, which went through a bit of the architecture and as well the installation step. If you want to try it out, the installation step are there. And also don't forget to enable automatic updates, because as Eric said, the goal is for us to update the plugin as soon as a new pattern, as soon as a new capability is released. So by enabling automatic updates, you will automatically get all those patterns as soon as we publish those. So we should be on time. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you for that one. Thank you, Giorgio and Eric. Having 3 demos in one call is always a bit challenging. We do apologize on that one, but again, there's so much cool stuff happening. So it's really, really hard to get actually less than 3 demos in a call, but really, really cool. Thank you, Giorgio. Thank you, Eric. And please check more details from those URLs. We'll definitely get Giorgio and Eric back on the call as well when we have free slots to be more detailed and cover new stuff on these topics as well. But really, really cool stuff. Also, Rabia and Seb, thank you for your presentations as well. Now, let's quickly recap or close up the call. We are a bit delayed on the schedule. Do apologize again on that one. This week, we also have the community demo call happening 7 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday. So we have Fabian, Fabio, and Lee doing live demos over there. Fabio is in Redmond, so I know because he's in MVP Summit. So he'll be broadcasting that live from the MVP Summit or from his hotel. So a lot of cool stuff on Thursday. And then on next Tuesday, we're going to cover again 3 demos with Seb, Lesha, and Aisha, talking about different agenda capabilities again on that side. And also Lesha is going to talk about the introduction of new Markdown support in SharePoint and OneDrive, which is important for skills and a few other things as well, what we're building in the future. Really, very cool stuff, what is happening. In the meanwhile, feel free to join us on our Discord server. We do have more than 3,060 members there, and they're continuing having discussions with other people in the community. So if you're familiar with Discord, let's take advantage of that one as well. We're always looking for feedback as well. AKMS community calls feedback is the URL for that one. And the recording will be processed and will be published within 24 hours at the Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel. And we're going to communicate in social media when it's available over there. The next Microsoft speaker call is happening March 31st, as mentioned, and hopefully you will be there. But thank you, everybody, for joining. Sorry for small technical challenges what we had today. Life happens, and then we adjust. And thank you, Seb, Rabia, Giorgio, and Eric one more time for your great presentations. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Cheers. Bye-bye.